Hello and welcome to another Civ Leader Rating. I'm Dame Offensive. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. It really helps with the visibility of my channel. Anyway, today's leader is Menelik II of Ethiopia. His leader ability is Council of Ministers. Cities on hills give science and culture equal to 15% of the faith generation. He also gains combat strength to his units on hills. The Civ ability is Axumite Legacy. You gain faith from improved resources, and trade routes gain faith from resources at the end city. You can also purchase archaeologists and museums with faith. Ethiopia's unique unit is the Oromo Cavalry. It has no hill movement penalty. It has higher combat strength and sight. Ethiopia's unique improvement is the Rock-hewn Church. It grants faith and appeal, and it gains extra faith from mountains and hills next to it. This also provides tourism after flight. The rating system I use is fairly simple. 10 is really designed for a feature, 1 is really bad, 5 or 6 is about average. First up for rating is a science victory. In terms of science generation, Menelik is going to get a 6. He can get pretty good bonuses to it, but he is theoretically going to be prioritizing faith, and he only gets a fraction of the faith's science. So it's fairly strong, and you can definitely push it really hard, but he doesn't really have exceptional bonuses to science generation. In terms of production generation, I'm going to give him a 6. He is going to be around hills, which can be good for production, but again, he's trying to prioritize that faith, and he wants to put his unique improvement on hills, which means more faith, but less production. In terms of additional abilities towards the science victory, I'm going to give him a 6. He does have this really good ability to push in any direction he wants through his faith. He can buy great scientists or great engineers really easily, but I don't think that's exceptionally powerful under normal circumstances. So average these out and he gets a science victory capacity of 6. Next is a culture victory. In terms of culture generation, I'm going to give him a 5. He ends up fairly average here because a lot of his culture is going to be from the faith. And it means that a lot of his land should theoretically be devoted to faith generation, which can give you some culture, but it means maybe fewer spots that will give you the bonuses to culture generation. Next is faith generation. Here he's going to get a 10. He's really so focused on faith, and it certainly pushes a culture victory because he can buy anything he wants with faith, and he can get tons of natural parks if he wants, or rock bands. In terms of additional abilities towards a culture victory, I'm going to give him a 10. This ability to get science from your faith generation means that he doesn't have to waste district slots on campuses, so he can get more holy sites and more theater squares, which really helps a culture victory. Average these out, and he gets a culture victory capacity of 8.3, and that's going to be his best score. On to religious victory. In terms of religious establishment, I'm going to give him a 6. He doesn't specifically have bonuses to that, but he should spawn near mountains, which means he should be able to get a halfway decent holy site so that he could purchase his great prophet if he wanted. In terms of faith generation, we talked about that before. He's going to get a 10. In terms of additional abilities towards a religious victory, I'm going to give him an 8. It does mean that you can focus on faith and not worry too much about the other yields. And he does get combat bonuses on hills, which is pretty good if you have to fight other religious units. Average these scores out and he's going to get a religious victory capacity of 8. On to diplomatic victory. In terms of diplomatic favor generation, he's going to get a 5. Nothing really special here. In terms of culture generation, we talked about that before. He's going to get a 5. In terms of additional abilities towards a diplomatic victory, he's going to get an 8 because he can work up both science and culture basically the same way without wasting too many district slots. Average these scores out and he gets a diplomatic victory capacity of 6. On to Domination Victory. In terms of combat bonuses, he's going to get a 7. The bonus on hills is pretty good, and theoretically you should spawn around hills, and that means your neighbors are going to have hills, so you should get some decent combat bonuses there. In terms of unit timing and relevance, he's going to get a 6. He doesn't really have anything special towards that. The Oromo cavalry is pretty good, the extra sight is amazing, and the movement bonus on hills means that it can move crazy fast. In terms of additional abilities towards a domination victory, I'm going to give him a 5. Nothing really to write home about here. Average his scores out and he gets a domination victory capacity of 6. Now for his versatility. First we're going to average his scores out and he's going to get a 6.9 here. In terms of reasonable alternatives to victory, I'm going to give him a 7. He is a fairly balanced civ in terms of focusing on faith means that you can build up towards any victory type, really. So as long as he's got his faith going, he should be in a halfway decent position to pursue any victory type. In terms of ease of change, I'm going to give him a 6. He does get those bonuses from his holy sites, which can push him in any direction, but the direction you choose will also affect how you allocate that faith. So I think it might be hard to change partway through a game. Average his scores out and he gets a versatility score of 6.6. Additional notes about Menelik II. In terms of terrain, he should spawn with hills, and you almost always want to settle hills. It's so key. The exception might be if you are going for something like a science victory or a domination victory, and there's a strategic settle that would grant you something, and you're not necessarily going to focus on faith in that city. The hill bonus does mean that you end up losing a bit of production in favor of faith. In terms of game modes, Apocalypse is really funny if you want to do the Great Bath Soothsayer spam. Heroes and Legends is really good for the extra faith. And then Secret Societies is almost a no-brainer. The Void Singers just gives you that double bonus to your faith income. In terms of city-states, you probably want to get a lot of religious city-states for tons of faith bonuses. La Venta is a really good one that can grant you faith if you don't have a ton of hills around, and any others that have improvements that'll give you faith. In terms of wonders, Kilwa Kisiwani is probably a really good one because you will want religious city-states and then you would get bonus faith from that. Kotoku-in is probably really good too for the 20% bonus to faith generation in that city. Just remember to make it in a city founded on hills. Other civs to look out for, you probably want to be careful of the Inca. They have better growth on hills. So if they spawn near you, you might be a little bit trapped and you might consider fighting them to take them out early. My summary of Menelik II of Ethiopia. I think he's really well-rounded when you settle on hills, but focus on faith. So that seems kind of counterintuitive, but as long as you're focusing on faith, he can really do anything he wants. But it does require a little bit of planning and an understanding of how that faith generation works. So that's my rating of Menelik II of Ethiopia. If you like this and you want to see more ratings or anything else I'm working on, go ahead and subscribe. You know how YouTube works. Goodbye.